Now, Phase 2 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe has had a couple of meh sequels so far, but for this playlist, I think this is where business really picks up. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to yet another brand new movie review over here, and as always, I thank you all so much for stopping by, and I hope you enjoy your stay. And yes, welcome back to the Marvel Studios playlist, y'all. We are chugging right along in this series. I am in the process of reviewing all 23 of these fabulous films, all in the build-up to the release of Black Widow this May, as well as all of the other projects that are coming out on Disney+. Good thing I'm making this video right now fresh off of the awesome trailer we got during the Super Bowl for The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm so hyped! And yeah, speaking of, this time around, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take a look at what many consider to be the best in this entire universe, Captain America the Winter Soldier. Hell yeah. This one was the first Marvel film directed by the Russo brothers, Anthony and Joe. True game changers to this universe, to put it in the mildest sense. And after the cataclysmic events in New York along with his fellow Avengers, Steve Rogers, also known as Captain America, also known as the most badass 95-year-old to ever exist, he's once again played by Chris Evans here, and he lives in Washington, D.C. as he tries to adjust more and more to modern times. But an attack on a SHIELD colleague throws Rogers into a web of intrigue that places the whole world at risk. Joining forces with the Black Widow, played once again by Scarlett Johansson, and a new ally in the Falcon, played by Anthony Mackie, Rogers struggles to expose an ever-widening conspiracy, but he and his team soon come up against the most unexpected enemy possible: the Winter Soldier. And just in case there are viewers out there that somehow have not seen Captain America the Winter Soldier, this is my fair warning to all of you before you tread through the rest of this review. This will contain spoilers. So, if you haven't seen it, tread lightly from here. But guys, I don't even know where to start unpacking all this goodness. Captain America the Winter Soldier, plain and simple, is one of the best comic book movie sequels ever made. Now, growing up, honestly, I was aware of the MCU and I was aware of what Feige was doing with the Avengers Initiative, and I thought it was cool and all. But the two films that released in the year 2014, this one included, those are the two films I credit with truly sparking my big Marvel geekdom / fandom. Captain America the Winter Soldier is, in all honesty, one of my favorite superhero movies, period. I'm serious. This movie is just fucking dope. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys have already seen and heard this comparison, but aside from the Russo brothers' immaculate direction, the incredible thing they've accomplished here isn't necessarily crafting a great superhero flick. I mean, they did, but besides that, essentially what this movie boils down to is that it's a spy espionage thriller in Marvel Comics clothing. Think Marvel's answer to the James Bond films, you know, except without all the womanizing from the main hero. But the biggest praise that I think I can give this movie, aside from the incredible acting and the suspenseful action sequences, both of which I'll talk about, this movie is just so grounded in realism. There's a lot of infighting, a lot of conspiracies going on behind the scenes, and politics. Jesus Christ, the politics. But there's a bunch of infighting within the SHIELD organization. Cap and Black Widow, both prominent agents within the organization, are fugitives of them for a little while. It's a film that feels very real from frame one, and that realism, I think, is what gives Captain America the Winter Soldier its most intense and dark qualities. Comparing it to its predecessor, the first Avenger definitely feels like the bright, colorful side of patriotism. Watching that first Captain America film, it makes you proud to be an American, but by comparison, the Winter Soldier delves into the darker side of patriotism, the more corrupt side of that coin. And I think it was really amazing for the filmmakers and the writers to drag Cap through these places while also retaining the fun nature of every Marvel film that came before it. Because you know what's incredible is that the Winter Soldier can be really funny at times. The movie still retains that Marvel charm to it. And a lot of that humor I felt coming from the relationship between Cap and Sam Wilson, played played by Anthony Mackie. On your left. Oh, the memories. That whole arc of On Your Left, obviously spanning through today, through Avengers Endgame, which we'll certainly get to. And that whole idea of him just telling that to Sam every single time, whereas he's basically Captain America's right-hand man. So great. And while I'm on the subject, let me just delve into this acting here. Chris Evans is once again fantastic as Steve Rogers. Very charming, still a total badass, especially in the action sequences. But he shows a different kind of vulnerability in this film that you kind of have to watch to understand where I'm coming from. And he's also just a very easy guy to get behind. Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow gets a lot to do in this film as well. She is amazing in here, kicking lots of ass where necessary. But that team up between her and Cap was just so much fun to look back on. One of my favorite sequences in this film is where they're basically hiding undercover when they're fugitives and they're walking through that shopping mall. There was some pretty uncomfortably, awkwardly funny stuff that happens there. I won't get into just in case, but all I'll say is their dynamic was especially great. Speaking of dynamic, let's talk about Anthony Mackie real quick. This is where he made his debut in the universe as Sam Wilson / Falcon. And he was one of my favorite parts of this movie. I'm serious. So likable and so funny. And much like the other two actors I've talked about already, great in the action sequences as well. So much fun finally seeing Falcon fly around in here. And guys, while I'm on that subject, before I forget, these action sequences are so incredibly stunning. The Russos did such an incredible job behind the camera. To my understanding, the Russos basically wanted as little CGI as possible. And even though there clearly is some CGI where needed, especially in that really pulsating climax, a lot of these fight scenes honestly reminded me a lot of T2 Judgment Day and Execution, which in my opinion is one of the best action films ever made. I mean, as I was rewatching this thing, I was surprised to find myself gripping the seat as much as I was. These are white-knuckled, man. There's just way too much awesomeness within these action sequences to really pick a favorite, but, like, I will say that one of my favorites, which I oddly think is really underrated given the context of the film, I really love Nick Fury's car chase. I forgot how thrilling that was. And while I'm on that topic, I really love that Nick Fury got so much more to do in this film. Samuel L. Jackson was his usual amazing self as Nick Fury, delivering his dialogue in the Samuel L. Jackson way. And there was a point where Nick Fury quote-unquote dies after said car chase. And obviously knowing where this character was going and where he's involved later on, like, I knew that wasn't the ending of his life, but even on a rewatch, knowing where he's going, that scene where they watch him die, that's really effective. Also, just a side note, you gotta love the Easter egg to Pulp Fiction on Nick Fury's gravestone. 12 out of 10. Now, Robert Redford appears in this film as Alexander Pierce. Now, this, I feel like, is a man-in-suit villain done right. Why? Because I feel it actually fits with the theme they're going with in Captain America the Winter Soldier. You know, as opposed to big business geeks going after Iron Man, like they do in every single Iron Man film. Pierce is a corrupt politician who's using S.H.I.E.L.D. as a launch pad to take over the world with an undercover Hydra. And Redford is clearly having an amazing time doing this part, and I really give props to him. Because rewatching this film, you'll notice he never oversteps any boundaries within his character. He never plays it too over the top. In fact, I think he kind of underplays it in some facets, which makes him all the more intimidating because when he is mowing people down, he's as chipper and calm as can be. Great stuff. Absolute legend. I was so happy to see him get the role in this universe at first, and I was happy to see him pop up again. I'm serious. He's one of the most underrated aspects of this film, I think. Last but certainly not least, God, I gotta talk about this Winter Soldier, the main villain of this film, because, my God, what a badass, guys. Very similar to T2, he feels like a villain that can't be taken down. He's a formidable adversary. The look of him is awesome. Once again, amazing in the action sequences, especially with Cap. That whole dynamic that Steve Rogers and this character share is just so emotionally, like, whew, really gets you. And I'm sure all of you know who the secret identity of the Winter Soldier is at this point. If not, I mean, I don't know if you've been living under a rock, but major spoilers. The Winter Soldier is actually Bucky Barnes, Cap's lifelong friend. This was a huge twist back in 2014, mainly for the casual fans who didn't necessarily read the comics. I'll never forget it. It was quite the scene when I saw this for the first time in theaters. There were many audible gasps in the auditorium. Man, I miss those moments on a regular basis. I think the way Chris Evans and Sebastian Stan play off of each other, especially in the second half of this film, absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the initial reveal is already at the end of an intense action sequence on a highway. Then Chris Evans steals the old suit from the first Avenger that's on display in this museum to try and make Bucky remember who he is. And yes, insert hilarious Stan Lee cameo here. But that final climax on the big giant Hydra carrier when Steve finally says, "No, I'm not gonna fight you. You're my best friend. You're my mission!" And finish it. I'm with you to the end of the line, buddy. I mean, can anybody come up with more perfect writing for this arc? Perfection. This is one of the best comic book sequels out there right now. Easily sitting up there with Spider-Man 2 and The Dark Knight in my eyes. I mean, this movie's f***ing fantastic, guys. It really is. I do, however, have one teeny tiny issue with this movie, and it's really thinking about nitpicking here. And I won't downgrade the movie too harshly for this anyway. But there are a couple of scenes involving Toby Jones's Zolo character from the first Avenger that I felt were a little bit too exposition dumpy. And the movie can meander at those points, if I'm being honest. But the good news is those scenes are extremely brief. Like, literally, it's like blink and you miss it, and then you go right back to the amazingness. Some people might find this movie overrated, and some might think, oh, this story element doesn't belong here. But I honestly think that this movie clicked from beginning to end. It's one of Marvel's finest standalone films. It is a great spy thriller. Thoroughly realistic, incredibly exciting, with some phenomenal acting and really brutal action sequences. And it takes these characters and this universe through dark places they had never been before. And it's a great indicator of where the MCU is going next. And it's certainly not the last we'll see of the Russos in this universe, because Captain America: The Winter Soldier is legitimately phenomenal, and it does deserve my highest grade of an A+. If you guys haven't seen this, I mean, what the heck are you waiting for? Enough said. And this has got me especially excited for March 19th to hit. Like, my god, Marvel's busy this year. I love it. I love it. Also, if you rewatch this film, stay tuned for those post-credit sequences, especially the first one, because this is where we're introduced to Lizzie Olsen as Wanda Maximoff, who's on a huge kick right now with WandaVision. And you also have Aaron Taylor-Johnson as Quicksilver thrown in there, but that's not important. But have you guys seen Captain America: The Winter Soldier? Do you agree with me? Do you not? What do you think is the best sequel of all time in all of cinema? It doesn't have to be Marvel, just of all time. What do you guys think is the best sequel ever made? I would love to discuss all of these thoughts and then some all down there in the comments. And if you guys are enjoying this content, and if you guys are looking for a place to continue discussing the cinema and all things entertainment, I think this channel might be the one for you. So if you guys are new here, or if you haven't already, please consider hitting that big red subscribe button down below as hard as you possibly can, because you beautiful subscribers will be the first ones to know anytime I upload a new video over here, and it's also free. And if you guys liked this video also, please be sure to leave a big fat thumbs up on your way out. I would really appreciate that. And as always, look out for more exciting content hitting this channel very, very soon, including the very next entry into this playlist, Guardians of the Galaxy. Got another one of my favorites. We're going from insanely gritty to awesomely weird, but I'm very excited to bring that review to you guys very soon. You guys are awesome. With all that being said, back talk, commence.